Hi guys, thanks for joining me. As I said in my previous video, what I wanted to do in this one is really go through the power of intention, the law of attraction, repetition and beliefs, and frequency, and go a little bit more in details on the subject because to me, I think it's really important to understand the concept. And if you understand how the system works and if you understand how those are related to one another, it makes it a little easier to be able to take control of it. If you are aware of something and now it's just a matter of deciding to take action into changing your life into a better life if you want to, at least you have the tools to do so. But I think one of the things that I want to talk about before we even get there is explain how the brain works a little bit. And I'm not a neurolog or whatever you call it. It's really by what I experience myself and what I've seen on other people. Um, the brain works in such a way where everybody face thousands and thousands of pieces of information every single day. Our brain has one section that all it does, it filters those information, those pieces of information, to see if they're good or not, based on your beliefs. So, and what you've learned. Somehow, when our brain hears something over and over and over and over again coming from different source, it becomes a belief because there's different people who are saying the same thing. It must be true. And that's where you have to be aware. You have to be awake and pay attention to the information that's coming through to you and checking them. Good, not good. Good, not good. Keep, discard, right? And here's why. The power of intention. What does that mean? That means if you focus on what you want, you will make it happen. How? Because of the power of the mind. You will be focusing on one thing, and you're going to focus and you're going to hear everything about it. You're going to get the information that you want, and you're going to get lots and lots and lots and lots of it until it becomes a belief. You will now believe your intention. If you believe your intention, it's going to be turned into actions. And that's where the law of attraction comes in handy. The law of attraction says whatever you put out there, whatever you emit, comes back to you. So if you give love to somebody, love will come back. Not necessarily from the same person, but love will come back to you. If you put positive out there, if you act upon positive actions, act of kindness, it will come back to you. That's the law of attraction. So if you combine that with the power of intention that you now believe is true, you're because it's a belief, you're going to start acting upon it. And now the action will now come back to you. That's the power of the two. The key is repetition. Repetition equal beliefs. The more you hear the same information, the more you're going to believe it. When you believe it, it's going to become reality. And frequency. Well, everything on earth has a frequency. And the easiest way to explain it is imagine your radio. You're listening to radio and you listen to this one station over and over again. You love that station. That is a frequency in itself. Like if you look at AM and FM, for example, that's two completely different frequency. But if you go at, I don't know, 107 or 105 or 99.9 or whatever it is, they are emitting at a different frequency. Your cell phone emit a certain frequency. Your phone at home, 2.5 gigahertz, that's a frequency. So, but come back to the radio. Let's say you're listening to the same radio over and over and over again, and at a certain point you get tired of that music, whether because the station changed the music they're playing or your taste changed. You will switch station until you find the right one, and when you do, you stay there for a little bit until you get tired again, or things change, or it's not what you want to listen to. You change to another one, so on and so forth. You can do the same thing with your life. We have the power to change our frequency in which we are emitting. You emit a certain frequency by your actions, which comes back from your belief. You understand how it's all going hand in hand? Power of intention. What you think becomes a belief. When you believe in something, you start acting a certain way, and when you start acting a certain way, you start receiving in the same way you're giving your action. Right? Now, the importance is where you're getting your information from. Your importance to be aware of what you're going to allow your brain to decide if it's a good information or bad. Say, for example, that, I don't know, you're watching the news and it's all negative. You have the power to stop watching the news. You also have the power to adapt yourself to the news, to allow your brain that information that's coming in to come in or not. I remember years ago, I pay attention to the news, but for different reasons than most. I like to know how people react out there, how's the world going, more than a specific news, for example. Because it's my strong belief that the presentation of it is to give us fear. And when we are in fear, when we live in fear, it crumbles us. It stops us from doing certain things in our life, and that's the way they control us. But that's my opinion. But I remember years ago, I was on a vacation, and one of the guys, we were talking, and I was telling him, like, I haven't read any news or watched news on TV for at least 4 or 5 years. That's a few years ago. And the guy said to me, he said, "But how can you hold a conversation?" And I laugh, and very easily. He said, "But how do you start a conversation?" Like, very easily. But he said, "How?" I said, "The same way as we just did this morning." I said, "Hi, how are you doing today?" And then this became the importance of the whole conversation. I listen. You are giving me all the information I need to have a decent conversation with you. And the whole conversation is about you. And if you ask me a question about myself, I'm honest and I give you an answer. And then you have a question. And that's how we communicate. It has nothing to do with the news. And if you pay attention in most of the conversation that I have, there's very little negative. I'm not perfect. But generally speaking, I stay in the positive. Why? Because there's 7 billion people on this planet. There's a lot of people who can think negative for me. I don't have to be there. I don't need to let the negative affect my actions. You really have to pay attention to the information that comes in. And until you master it, which I haven't yet, but when you start mastering, when you get better at it, you're able to say, okay, that information applies for this only. And then you categorize them. Oh, I never thought about that. That would work great there. Or whatever, that's pointless. That's a fear. Let's move on. I'm not keeping track of it. So it's in the disregard part. But you gotta be aware at every information that's coming through. And depending how old you are in your life, the more experience you have to work on and make it better. But the thing is, I've been working on myself since I'm 18. So it's not from yesterday. I have over 30 years of, almost 30 years of experience now at working on myself, watching videos, listening audios, paying attention to people, and really realizing for myself how things work. And once again, repetition and belief. I believed of what I saw from my eyes in my own experience, and I'm not basing that on 2-3 people. I've met thousands and thousands of people. how people react and how people act made me understand how the brain works. Listening to audios and going, oh, that actually makes sense. Power of intention. If you start thinking about it, how many of you bought a car, brand new car, and before buying it, you never really see anybody driving it? But the minute that you bought one, everybody seems to be driving it. Why? Because that car is on your mind. Therefore, your eyes is on the lookout to see as many as you can. That's the power of intention. Imagine what I can do if I put it to the right action, to the right purpose. Right? When you start paying attention to how you act, and you change one little thing, and all of a sudden you realize how much comes back to you. You realize that the law of attraction actually works. Something that worked for me is paying attention to others, not to judge them, because I don't judge people, by the way. Who am I to judge anybody? Everybody has their own stories and their own reasons. But by looking at someone else and trying to figure out how they do certain things and the why is a lot easier than when you look at yourself in the mirror. Because when I look at myself, I have my emotion that seems to work as a screen. Oh, but I did that because, and I always have the best reason of why I've done it, and which is true. It's my past experience. But when you look at someone else, you start understanding, oh, well, that same concept worked on the last 20 people I looked at. Which means the only difference among humans is the way that we think, our beliefs, the experience that we had, which created beliefs. If you look at people who are extremely successful, and you have different kinds, but the people who's been successful, who has reached success, I guarantee you, if you take the time to sit down with them, if you have the opportunity to sit down with someone who did succeed, and you don't have to go meet, I don't know, the top, Bill Gates, for example, but take one that's maybe 2 steps above you in the thing of success, because nobody's above anybody, but the one that made it a little further than you have yet, and you start asking questions on how they think, you're gonna pinpoint a few different ways of how they think. How did you succeed to that? And if you pay attention to the words they're using, you're gonna realize that it's all about how they thought. They did not see failure. They did not see challenges. They saw an opportunity, and they saw either an experience with success or learning what works and what doesn't work to get to the success. So, like I said, when you look at others, it's easier to start. But don't get caught in the judging part, because judging will not do anything. But if you look at people, how they react and how they act and how they talk, the word they use are amazing. I shared a video a couple days ago, I think, or last week, or whatever it is, about Fred from the Raptors. Don't remember his last name, Van something. I shared that video because of the word he used. He wasn't successful yet, but the word he used was very positive. He didn't set up himself for failure. He could only see himself winning. The experience that he had experienced was a stepping stone to get to the success. He kept on saying, I'm not going to quote it because I don't want to be wrong, but something along the line where he was happy about himself that he did that, congratulating himself. Those are powerful words. You have to be able to congratulate yourself along the way. Pay attention to what you've done, what you've accomplished, not what you didn't. yet. Pay attention to everything you have in your life. Be grateful for what you have. Start by loving yourself. And if you haven't had a chance to look at my video on love, I strongly recommend you go and watch it. I'll invite you to go and watch it because it's the basic, the stepping stone for all my videos. That, in my belief, is where you need to start in order to be able to get to the point where you can actually pay attention to those information and gather them quick. Then when you start paying attention to all the information that's going there, you're going to pay attention to the words you're using. Simply because you know what the power of intention is now. You know that it becomes a belief. Then you act upon your belief, therefore the law of attraction becomes extremely important. And then you can change the frequency of your life at any given moment in your life. Those are the tools, guys. If you want to make your life better, invest on you. Invest on yourself. Do the work for yourself. If you want a promotion at work, what do? You do some overtime. If you need to finish whatever part of your work you're doing and you need to bring it at home on a Saturday evening, you will take it because you're focusing on that promotion. You're willing to invest your time for someone else, for money. Imagine the investment if you could invest it on yourself to have a happier life, a more balanced life, and a more successful life. Those are the tools I'm giving you today. And the power of intention, the law of attraction, the frequency, there's thousands of books that talks about, maybe not thousands, but there's tons of books out there. I'll invite you to go and start reading, and the one that speaks to you is the one for you. I'm not going to recommend any, simply because it's a personal decision, and I think at this point I hope that you guys are able to think for yourself and decide for yourself. And I don't mean that in disrespected way, but if you once again watch the video about love, you'll have learned to trust yourself better, and the information that you want is you, not what worked for me. What worked for me is what I share with you, but in a way where I make it, or hoping that I can make the information available for you to decide which one you want to go and how you want to get at it. On that note, I hope you enjoy. I hope to see you on the next video. Until then, peace guys, be nice, love ya.